What up? This is Myron, and you are listening or actually watching here on YouTube the Rye, Bread, and Mustard, a Mariners podcast at Down on the Docks on the other side of the tracks, 5-star dive bar. About your beloved Seattle Mariners that, as you can see by the thumbnail, are still in the wild card race. I know every show to show, we don't know when we're coming back what it's going to be. We don't know if we're going to be Forks down or we're going to be Tritons up. But at the time of this recording, the Mariners are now 3 games out of the wild card spots. That's what we're going to kind of focus on here on the show. We're going to focus a bit also on the improvements that we're seeing. But we're not seeing them enough. But they're headed in the right direction. We're going to see if we think and what possibly could happen if the Mariners can get hot here with this homestand that they are about to open up. Just like I said, Mariners are 3 games back. If you're getting this episode, mid-series, you do that math. All right. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Victor Robles, what that injury is looking like, and how we think that's going to affect him. We're going to talk about the bullpen and all of that good shit. And with me to do that, of course, you're checking this out on YouTube. It's Hanno up in Edmond. What's going on, Hanno?
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's good. It's nice to see you. You got the Mariners hat on. I was going to guess after the first Monday Night Football, we'd see you in full Seahawk regalia. I think maybe you were thinking that if we were talking about this a week ago.
Yeah, let's talk Hawks, man. It's a bright season. Good win. I mean, Pete Carroll's not there anymore. The defense is looking like a real defense. I mean, firing around on D, making good tackles. I haven't seen that kind of tackling in at least 5 years. I mean, this was the kind of D Pete Carroll always talked about wanting to have, and we just haven't seen that for 5 years, but every year he was talking about it. So I'm excited.
I'm good. Now I'm going to need you to switch gears back over here. But in all honesty, Seahawks, it was a good day. It was nice to see some football. I know everybody was probably more focused on the football game after, the Mariners had this tough loss on Saturday night. That game 2 really hurt. You were Victor Robles less in that game. I think that was a big thing, but Mariners win a series. You can go back to the Oakland series that they split or the Anaheim series that they lost. Those were the things that really hurt on that road trip. Mariners finished the road trip at 500, which is an improvement from what we've seen most of the season. But it's getting a little bit late to always say, hey, it's not as bad as it could have been. It's better. We need it to be a lot better. But the good news is Mariners come home only 3 games out of the wild card as we talk about this right now. What they're 4.5 still out in the American League West. That's looking like a tall order with the Houston Astros. You do have the opportunity to make up more ground on them because you got 3 games. It's down in Houston where the Mariners haven't really played. But the wild card chase, as I was saying there when I was introing this, it's crumbling a little bit. It's starting to open up. We're starting to see through to maybe a 3 spot, even the 2 spot. It's starting to regress back to where even when the Mariners were the American League West leading team, it wasn't looking good. It's very interesting, right?
I don't know. When I'm looking through, I see a couple really big, tall trees. One is the Boston Red Sox and one is the Detroit Tigers. Both of the same record as you, and both hold the tiebreaker over you. So even though you got that clear picture in your head, I know how you feel, but it's blocked by these big trees.
You're right. That is something that we need to talk about here. I got to acknowledge it. Yes, the Mariners might only be 3 games back of the Minnesota Twins. Can't tie them. That's another team they don't have a tiebreaker on. And I'd have to go look at, and the next thing, let's just say Kansas City, right above that. They're not playing they're playing all right baseball. They just swept the Twins. But they're playing New York this week. They're in in New York, I believe. So uh, that's another point of interest I'm going to be watching. But you're right. Boston Red Sox are tied with us, and we know that, or not tied with us, they hold the tiebreaker. And of course, we know the Detroit Tigers hold that tiebreaker because they manhandled us, or person handled us, or whatever you want to call it, uh, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, those are tough series that we've talked about so much. They are actually tied with us as far as the wild card standings. Both of those teams are 3 out like we are. And maybe it changed and they played tonight. I don't know. I just looked it up real quick. But yeah. But I will say, going back to what I saw this weekend, I saw some better baseball in these last two series. It was good to watch them play better, clean baseball, hit the ball around. They've been getting double-digit hits, and I think 4 of their last 5. This might be the first series I think they've won since the Met series, if I'm not mistaken. But playing better ball. I just wonder if it's a little bit too late still.
Correction, they won both series on the last home stand. Uh,
Oh, that's right. That's right. It just feels like so
yes,
long ago when they played good, but you're right because Dan Wilson's what about 3 games over 500 in his managerial record.
at the time of this recording, he's 2 games over 500, 9-7.
Okay.
But the Mariners are hitting, I think, 5.3. They're scoring, I should say, 5.3 runs since he's taken over. And you got to give that credit. I know it's a Dan Wilson led ship, but I kind of have put a lot of the emphasis on Edgar Martinez, even though he's just your interim uh, batting instructor. There's an great article in Seattle Times, and any of the interviews that you've heard people talking about Edgar, about him just keeping it simple, just this simple approach. We are starting to see that this last weekend in St. Louis. I believe there was somebody might want to correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Mariners put up 27 hits, and 12 of them were with 2 strikes, which is something that we're not seeing. So the 2 strike approach is improving, and we've seen big outbursts. Yeah, we still saw those games where, just going to this last game here, Saturday's game, very frustrating. Again, Logan Gilbert, excellent start, makes one bad pitch out of what, 100 pitches or so, and you lose the game. Well, how many games is that now that they've done this to Logan?
I think at least 9 of his last 10. I heard. Just absolutely brutal for him as far as his record and his run support. But yeah, just really tough for Logan. But it seems like every year there's at least one guy that gets the short end of the sticks on the run support, and it's sure been Logan this year.
Yeah. But surrounding these 2 games, let's build on a little bit of the positivity. The Mariners are hitting the ball better. You are seeing. Uh, it feels like we're getting the Julio that was there right before his injury. He's got an 11-game hit streak. You look up now. I know it's not impressive of a whole season, but he's got 14 home runs now. If you go just into, we'll just pull this up. I believe he's hitting just under or 400 in the last week, and then I think in his last 14 games he's hitting about 300. So he's looking healthier. He's stealing bags. He's playing good defense. So we're getting that Julio back. You're also starting to see Randy Rosarena. It seems like he's being more of a presence. That's something that we've been looking for. Another acquisition that we made with Justin Turner. He's been pretty solid this whole time. You're getting what you'd expect out of him, and you're starting to see Mitch Garver. It seems like every game he plays now, he gets a couple RBIs. That
Yeah,
is, I mean, if Edgar Martinez can turn this guy around, I mean, Jesus, I mean, he is literally the hitting whisperer.
yeah. I mean, going back to Julio, I mean, he just looks night and day up at the plate. He's on balance. He looks comfortable. He's recognizing pitches. And yeah, you mentioned he's stealing bases. I don't know if you've noticed, but how he's going in there head first now. I mean, something they told him to stay away from. I don't know if that's because they're worried about him jamming his ankle because he have the ankle injury. But yeah, he's going in hard head first. Looks pretty comfortable, swiping bags like he said. And yeah, the rest of the guys are picking up the lineup too with double digit hits like I mentioned. Big home run from Arena this weekend against his former team. Yeah, just like I said, the team just looks way better as far as their game to game outlook, and they're being aggressive at the plate too, which I'm really glad to see. They're not waiting and getting behind in the counts, but like you mentioned, when they are, they're having that confidence and they're able to come through. So it's really nice to see the difference in this team here over the last 4 or 5 games.
Yes, absolutely. And even the games they've lost. And I know it's baseball and it's frustrating. It's day to day. You can't build on to things really. And some people don't believe there's momentum. But the Mariners are in every single one of these games, and that's what actually makes it hurt, right? All these losses in Anaheim, just going back to game 2 and 3, and then 1 and 2. You had 3 walk-offs in 4
Yeah.
games, and then and a go-ahead home run in the other. So they were all gut-wrenching losses, and every loss right now stings like a playoff loss.
Oh, absolutely. And a few of those losses were in games where the Stros ended up losing, so you weren't able. It didn't hurt you as bad in some of them, but I mean, you didn't pick up that game, and you need everything you can at that time. But yeah, that low 4 day stretch or so. With all those walks, it was tough to swallow. And every time you think they're kind of out of it, they kind of give you a little hope, and that's kind of where they're at right now, I guess.
And just going back to Julio, I just pulled this up if you're checking this out on YouTube. Yeah, with Julio, let's just look on MLB.com. Let's keep it simple. I don't think Edgar wants us on Fangraphs looking at exit velocity and any of that
No,
stuff. So we're
I
go
know
ahead.
that's what I heard. That article you were talking about. It's he kind of simplifies it like you mentioned, and I don't know if he disregards the analytics, but he kind of thinks that it overloads the guys, or maybe I'm talking out of turn, but he doesn't base everything on that. He's more of approach and see the ball and hit it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I overspoke. Maybe he's 400 in this last series, but Julio in the last week 313 in his last 15 games 295, and even in those last 15 games right there, he wasn't healthy. He wasn't back to mid or late season form at that point. So
Yeah,
I'm really
he
encouraged.
wasn't good. He wasn't. You're right.
Yeah, he wasn't right. I mean, he's in retrospect, I believe he should have went and did that rehab, whatever. We go and look at let's go look at Randy Arozarena. He seems like he's waking up for the Mariners. I know since we've had him, it's kind of been it's been hot and cold with him. But again, we've been waiting for him to take over games. But this last game, I thought the swings he had in St. Louis are the best, like consistent swings I think we've seen all season out of him, especially that rocket of a home run that he had there in the first. The second inning.
Yeah, I mean, ever since that mental mistake or whatever you want to call it, with him not following through on the stolen base when it was to strike him out, throw him out, I've seen his hustle improve. He put the pressure on the defense at one point and made the shortstop make a bad throw. So I don't know if they talked to him, and I get losing's hard, but man, you can't have that energy throughout the club, and it's noticeable, especially with a player like him. But I've noticed that's changed quite a bit, and it's helped him get a lot more hits and swings with his and home runs here of late. He looks much better at the plate, like you mentioned.
And another guy that's still just when he's in there, because he's been battling the hip issue. We seen him get hit the other day, had to come out of the game. Talking about Victor Robles, and I don't. I'm so. I'm not. What am I trying to say here? I just want to say like how much I think he really is a motor of this team, especially offensively, and without a doubt, the mojo that goes on out on the field, right? And not having him in this series, pretty much, I point to that game on Saturday where they couldn't get a run across the board after having this improved offense and um, seemingly feeling like they were really turning the page coming out of Oakland, going into St. Louis. And then they put the egg up on the board, but you didn't have Victor Robles. And when I look at Victor Robles again, let's just look at what he's been doing, just out there on the field. I mean, this guy. Oops, did I accidentally pull up Rosarena again? Oh, there we go. Which one do I have up there on the screen? Do I have any of them? Oh, my bad. But trust me, Victor Robles, his splits, just going back to the entire time he's here as a Mariner, are really good. I mean, he's had maybe like a 3 or 4, like half a week slump, if you want to call it that. And that's about it.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely been a catalyst for the team. And I think last time we were talking about you were hoping that he would get moved into the leadoff spot, and that ended up happening before he got dinged on the elbow there. So I'm sure you were glad to see that.
Yes, I was. I think everybody was. I think again he should be your leadoff hitter, but then you have this injury happen, and here's a glass half full thing with this is Julio has performed great at the leadoff spot, and we've seen him in the past be great at the leadoff spot as well.
Yeah, I sure like that lineup. It was interesting seeing him at the leadoff spot, then with Cal hitting second. Just a different lineup that we certainly haven't seen, especially when Scott Service was managing. This last year, I know some people had talked about that they feel that that's the best spot for Julio, and we're hoping he would get put in there to kind of get him out of his slump. It never came to fruition with Scott. He always kept him in the 2-hole. But yeah, he's looked really comfortable up in that leadoff role. So yeah, it could be a thing where they leave him there. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good question. I go and I look at what Victor Robles has done in the leadoff spot, and sorry, there's like some sort of paywall thing that's happening here, so I gotta stop screen. I look at what Victor's been doing. I can't really pull it up on the screen, so you'll just have to trust me. His last 7 games, 333. His last 15 games, he's hitting 400. And his last 30 games, 264. And that's where he kind of had that little bit of a slump right there. Seeing Julio back at the leadoff hitter, I feel like he's more comfortable and more explosive as a leadoff hitter. And just looking at the lineup that they had this last weekend, where you had Victor Robles, and then who did you have too? You had Cal too, and then
I think Cal was only when Julio was hitting leadoff.
One,
right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So let me restart that over there. So without Robles this weekend, and you were seeing Julio at 1, I feel like Julio, yes, I feel like he almost is his best when he's hitting leadoff. I know he's hit 1 or 2 primarily on the Mariners. I do like him at 1. This weekend when they had him at 1, and would they have Cal at 2, then Rosarena at 3. And then you were going Turner at 4, or Polo at 4. It's gonna be interesting when Robles comes back, hopefully here in the San Diego series, because he was scratched from Sundays. So you'd have to think he's close to coming back. With Julio hitting number one, it's a different conversation. I'm just glad they didn't put Crawford back in there when Robles wasn't available. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
totally agree with you.
my question is, or just a thought, do you have Julio stay there at number one? And it seems like Victor Robles, no matter where you put him in the lineup, he's going to hit. I think he hits even better as a 9-hitter. But the problem with a 9-hitter, obviously, is you're the last one to get the bat. It is an important spot on a loaded lineup. But do you just put him right back there at number one and move everybody down the line one spot, or would you keep Julio at number one?
I mean, I don't really feel like it matters too much because obviously you want Julio to get as many at bats as you can, and you certainly feel that way with Robles with the kind of year he's having. I do like but I probably wouldn't mind just keeping it as it is with Robles there. I feel like he's such a dynamic guy that can get on, steal you second, and steal you third, even possibly get you in a scoring position, and then obviously having Julio up to drive you in or Cal, it's a nice little start to the game and for your lineup. So you can't really go wrong either way, but. I mean, where do you put Robles then if Julio bats? Do you move him down to the middle of the order? It just seems more, since he's hitting so well, you'd like to get him some at bats too. So just kind of keep him up in the leadoff spot to get him more at bats.
Yeah, I think the way he steals bases and how he puts the game in motion, you definitely have him at number one for sure. I think I've said too, I think the easiest part of filling out the lineup card is who you'd put at the leadoff last week, and that's Victor Robles. As far as if it's not Victor Robles, then yes, Julio. And just having Victor Robles back in the lineup makes that lineup so much more deep. And right there at 1 and 2, you got guys that, hey, if you're out there on the mound, they are going to irritate you. Like Robles is an irritator if he gets on base. And both of these guys, I mean, just looking at Robles's on base percentage in his last 7 games, 444. In his last 15 games, 456. So he's actually down as much as he's been on base when he's there right now. And in the last 30 games, 322. I mean, those are great numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been huge for this team. I imagine if he didn't get picked up, even though Rayleigh's been pretty good for most part of the year, he had a few kind of down months, but what a pickup it was for them to go get Robles, and he sure turned out to be a great surprise for the Mariners.
Yeah, and there are some other players that we've seen some improvements with, and let's take a real quick break and let's come back. I want to talk a bit about Turner and his defense that we've seen there over at first base. Also want to talk a little bit about JP Crawford. I know we've been kind of tough on him of late. I saw a couple things here in the St. Louis series I was pretty inspired to see. Anyways, well, let's do that right after this.
Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdom.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdom.
Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast.
We have the one and only Mr. Tom Hutler. Do you have any of your favorite stories from the Kingdom?
There was a time we had an earthquake, and so they were going to evacuate the building. So I was like getting up to go leave, and they go, "No, you can't go. You got to read these safety things." It's like,
do we need to tell them that there's smoking's only on the exterior ramp?
Yeah. And Dave came shooting past. He signed off. I'm going, wait, I'm the only one here.
Listen and subscribe to Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
One thing that you and I were talking about in text during the Mariners game / Seahawks game at the same time yesterday was, even though that the Mariners did have quite a lead, there was points in that game where St. Louis was definitely knocking on the door. And one of those innings, there was some really good defense. There's some of the innings there was some really good defense. But I'd say one of the biggest plays this last weekend was, and you pointed out to me, was Justin Turner's play in that game on Sunday.
Yeah, just a really pivotal play at that time. He was playing, deep at first, just on the cut of the grass or close to it. He made a diving play, and who was pitched? And then Castillo, I don't think got over in time. I think he was still in at that point, or maybe it was later on. I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. The pitcher didn't get over there in time, and he beat out the runner. I think it was Lars Newsbar, pretty fast guy for the Cards, and did everything he could to get over there before him, and had to dive head first and tag the base with his glove to end a threat. It's just, I've seen really nice stuff from him, which I would expect, what I expected to see at first base. I think he's been really good with going to his right and getting the ball as well, and making that nice easy throw to the pitchers. I remember one he had to Chargois that I thought was really tough, and he made it really easy on him. So we knew how Ty was at first, and he was pretty good at that, especially his digs. But as far as any drop-off, there's been absolutely none, in my opinion, if not better, from Justin Turner at first.
Absolutely. And if you had to put this guy over at third base, he could play third base. With Ty France, I know we're just talking about first base. He was kind of having to readjust and learn. Just on this team, he's going to be a first baseman. But I mean, I saw years of Turner down here having to play third base here in LA. But yeah, and in that situation, yeah, again, 2 outs, 2 guys on, he misses that ball. You wouldn't be mad at him. It was smoked. And he misses that ball. There's 2 runs in. This is now a 3-run game. You also would have a guy on second base, and you would be having somebody throw more pitches. Another thing before we jump into the some improvements or the people that we want to see more, we're begging for just a couple of weeks of some consistency. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the injury that Luis Castillo had here on Sunday. It seems like it was listen to the interview. It's a hamstring thing from him. He said it happened when he was ducking down from a throw to second base.
Yeah, I thought it was. To me, it looked like. I mean, I obviously that's what it was. I thought it was his ankle at first when he was following through on his pitch. But yeah, hamstring. I mean, you always would prefer that, at least I would, for a pitcher, rather than being his arm, and he's been so durable and really hasn't had any arm trouble to my knowledge. But I mean, then I go back and think about Brian Wu with his leg injury that kept him down for a little bit. But I haven't heard anything as far as a timeline for him, if he's going to miss a start or make his next start. But hopefully it's not too big of a deal, and he'll be able to go. But yeah, kind of a freak thing though, for sure.
Yeah, and as far as him, with an injury like that, if it's a hamstring thing, those things don't just happen overnight. Those are usually a week to 2 weeks. I wonder if we're going to see possibly a 10-day DL on him. I don't know how that works right now at this time of season. But maybe we are going to see Mr. Hancock back up here pitching. His starts would be, I believe, this weekend against Texas, and then I believe it would be the next time they play Texas in Texas. But if you put him on a 10-day DL, he would only miss 1 start if you retroacted it to today or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, Hancock, been very pleased with him coming up this year and making those spot starts, especially when Wu was down. Haven't really followed what he's been doing in the minors since he got sent down, but I'm sure he's just fine. And so if that is the issue, the Mariners are so fortunate to have a guy down, in AAA just ready to go with that can do it and has done it for you already if Castillo does miss a start.
Right. I I would almost be. I mean, I would hate to not have Castillo, especially at this time of the year, because he's just got the pedigree for the big games. It just seems like. But also, if he's not going to have the velocity that he needs for everything else in his repertoire, I would be more comfortable with Hancock in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, you need. I mean, we saw it the way Dan kept his guys pitching later into games. It's go time now, and you need guys at their best. And with our bullpen being beat up a little bit, and guys who are just starting to get into some of these high leverage roles that they're not used to, and Dan keeping the starters in longer and going harder with these guys and then getting the pitch counts up a little more. Yeah, I totally agree with you. You want a guy that's 100%. And I would agree with you that going with a good Hancock over Castillo, because I mean, was it his plant leg, I think, that he had the hamstring injury on. I mean, that's big for a pitcher with them extending and coming down the mound like that. It might be a thing where it could linger. So yeah, but I guess my point, as I'm rambling on, is that these games matter so much, and you want a healthy guy over someone that's not as healthy, even though it's Castillo.
Yeah, and you can't, and you're not in the position right now to just go, "Hey, we're gonna have a bullpen game." Like,
Yeah,
we can't
exactly.
do that. We cannot do that. I know that they got away with one here, or I wouldn't say they got away with one. The bullpen has been good this season. It's just been whittled down with, I think, overall talent, and it has been kind of a Mod Podge put things together, and also, as we were talking about last episode, Munoz with the inflammation to the elbow. So I haven't heard much about that this weekend. He didn't. Did he even pitch in this series? I don't believe he did. Did he?
I don't remember from the first two games, and I didn't check the box score on the last one, so I'm not sure.
Well, he definitely did not. He definitely did not pitch in Saturday's game. I think that was the only. They're not glass half full, but like, I'm glad he didn't come in a situation where it was 0-0. Mariners couldn't get anything, and then you burn an appearance from him, especially if he's dealing with that. And as far as yesterday's or Monday's game, I should say, he did not. And going back to Friday's game,
Yeah, he
6-1. Yeah, he didn't.
He didn't, because I remember at one point, Blow and Aaron were talking about that, because he was up and warming, and so was Thornton, and I think it was like a 3-run lead at that time, and Aaron said, "Oh, no matter what, you could probably go with Thornton," and Blowers was like, "No, not yet. They need at least one more." So, and the Mariners ended up getting that, and they sat him down. So it was really interesting to hear their back and forth and the reasoning behind it. So it's just a game you couldn't afford to give up the grand slam in, and otherwise they would have brought him in. But yeah, he hasn't pitched in a while.
Yeah, and that's good if you have it's good if you have an injury that you're trying to get through. But again, those pitchers like that, there has to be a rhythm of them playing. It's just that's just the way those guys are wired. I guarantee you're going to be seeing him here in the San Diego series. I would assume you'd see him in Texas series. But the Mariners, in these victories, especially in St. Louis, they've played add-on, and they've closed games the way you want to see them close them out. That's something that we haven't seen. And I think we've seen that a bit more here in the last couple of weeks under Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez. So that's a good thing. Really quick, who are who are a couple of the inconsistent players? There's plenty to pick out of that you think are going to be very influential down the stretch. If they can turn it around, it makes this lineup and this team just and everything much better.
Well, I mean, we've been seeing it out of their so-called guys of late, really carrying them. You know, the Robles, the Julio's, Cal's always there. You know, it seems for the big hit. Same with the Rosarina, and you know, and even Polo had a big home run in game 3 after kind of being down for a few games with a little injury. But so I'd like to see Polo keep going. You know, I mean, if you get it from those guys, you're doing pretty good. But if any of those guys, you know, take a step back, you need someone to at least try to pick you up. You know, nice to see Rojas maybe get going a little bit more. He was so good early, but he's, you know, faded off. But that's just the kind of player he is. You know, it's hard to expect him to be that good and that hot as he was earlier on in the season. But played a pretty good third base. It'd be nice to see him get going a little bit more. Seems like when Turner's in there, he's really done well. It seems like every time when he's in there, I see at least one, if not two hits from him. So, and then Rayleigh's been doing some nice stuff as of late too. So, you know, as long as you get a handful of those guys doing things, as what we've seen lately, you know, with the double-digit hits like we mentioned, it's just really good to see. It's just something the Mariners have not been consistent at this whole season.
Yeah, I agree. There's tons of them. I think the two I want to focus on is J.P. Crawford. I know that there was a hit there at the end of the game. It was in the top of the 9th inning. He sliced the ball down the left field line, and actually the thumbnail to our episode is him after that double. And I like this little like shotgun thing. And I said, wow, that's kind of the JP I've been asking for, the slashing JP that's going all over the field, using that decent speed. He does put together good at bats. We've seen this from him in the past. I mean, I don't want to ever like, you know, boo-hoo a home run, but I like the JP, like, again, that slashes, that hits and sets the table for the other guys. And I hope that's something, and I believe that's something that Edgar is preaching. You know, the interview in the Seattle Times, it's about JP Crawford. You've heard JP Crawford on many of the sound bites talking about it's just a much more simpler approach. And I'm hoping if we can get something that we've seen from JP in the last couple of years here in the next couple of weeks, that is going to be huge for the Mariners. And I would agree with you, if Polo can come out of this slump that he's been in, and I know he hasn't been healthy, that's going to be huge. And then again, Mitch Garver, I mean, if you can play him once or twice a week, now when I see his name in the lineup, just going off of what we've seen since the coaching change, I don't go, oh God, why is he in there? Do I prefer Cal behind the plate? 100%. But, you know, Cal's going to need at least 2, maybe 3 days off out of these 18 games. But if you look at the days off, maybe he won't. But with him and Haniger seemingly sharing that DH spot, and sometimes with Rayleigh in there, I'm feeling a lot better. But definitely JP Crawford would be my number one guy to go. If you can return to the JP that we know at the plate, I'm going to be feeling a whole lot better. And I think the Mariners are going to be a whole lot better, and they're going to need it. And he's down at the end of the lineup now. You know, he's got to be the guy down there.
Yeah, he's had that role early on in his career with the Mariners of being down there, and he, you know, made himself such a better hitter this last year. So he's used to it. So it'd be great to get him going. I totally agree with you, especially down there, to turn the lineup over, get on base, and let those top guys be able to drive him in. Yeah, for a while there, it's like he was all or nothing. But when he's posting, you know, pole to pole, slapping the ball where the ball's pitched instead of trying to drive it out of the ballpark, the way it kind of looks with his swing sometimes, yeah, it would be a really good thing for the Mariners to have him. get on base more often, have a little bit better on base percentage, and then be able, like I said, to flip the lineup over.
Yeah, some bloops, maybe you see an off-speed pitch on the other side of the plate. It's 2 strikes, and you kind of have to have a defensive little slap at the ball. Those are the kinds of things I want to see, and I think that's when he's playing his best game. Sure, if he's going to turn on one, I don't want to compare him to Ichiro, but it's kind of the approach that Ichiro did, where you'd see Ichiro pull one hard down the line, but if you threw that ball out over here, he's going to slap it. Again, Ichiro, one of the best hitters that's ever played the game. Edgar's one of the best hitters that played the game, but it was all these simple adjustments up there in the plate, going up there, looking for a fastball, adjusting there, using your talent up there is the thing. And they call it an old school or old fashioned approach that Edgar's preaching to these guys, but it seems to be working. It's getting them out of their head, and that's great to see. And I really hope it really does work out, not only for the Mariners, but maybe this is something that baseball in general will look at if there's some sort of revelation here with the Mariners and this offense. But yeah, we got 18 games. We got the Padres coming up, then we got Texas, then you got the Yankees. You got a big, what is this, 9-game homestand. We're not going to give any numbers out. I just want to say this, and we'll go to a quick break. We'll do some I do have comments here. Sorry, we didn't get to those, but we just got locked into our conversation. Got some comments, and I also want to give pay some respects here at the end of the episode. But the number that I want to say is I think the Mariners need to get 12 games here out of this 18 to get into the playoffs. So I think that's the thing, is getting 12 wins out of this next 18. Give me a number, Hanno.
I don't know, man. I'm just kind of happy to see the way they're playing better. They just need to pick up 2 games over these next 2 weeks and be a game out from the Astros when they play them in 2 weeks. That's just kind of how I'm looking at it.
I like it.
They were down 10 games. I'm not putting my whole effort and heart into these guys. I mean, they've crushed it so many times. So I just want to see them play good ball and not get my hopes up, and we'll just see what happens when the season ends and what they can do. Like I said, the best thing that I've seen lately is they're playing a lot better and being, more consistent, and their approach is good. They're stealing bases. They're playing like an actually Major League Baseball team, something we haven't seen for 130 games this year.
Right. Well, even though there's a little bit of doubt there in your voice, just a tinge of it, I do like that you're. I was referring to the wild card, and you were giving me you started off with the Jay Buhner, fuck the wild card. We're going for the West. All right. We'll quick little 30-second break. We'll come back. We'll do some questions, and then we'll get on out of here.
Supercross this weekend in the Kingdom. The Coors Beer Supercross doubleheader. Get ready, Seattle, this Saturday night at 7:30 and Sunday afternoon at 2. The 1988 AMA Supercross Tour, Motorcycle Mania, on an incredible dirt battleground that treats man and machine the same way. With absolutely no respect. See the best. National champion Jeff Ward, former champion Ricky Johnson. Tickets at all Ticketmaster locations, including the Bond, Tower Records and Video, and participating Honda dealers. The Coors Beer Supercross.
I still need those goddamn tickets. They still have not shut up. That joke's never gonna get old to me. So couple of some comments. I can't get to all of them tonight because I gotta pick my sister up at the airport down here. I gotta go back out it's 95 degrees here at 9:35 p.m. Down here in Los Angeles. But let's go to some of these. Here's some quick ones. Flick of the switch. It's too late. NFL season. Go Hawks. It's NFL season. It's not too late. It's a little late to get going. We've said it before. Long way to go. Short time to get there. Right, Anna?
Yeah.
We had another one from him. A real travesty this season is the real travesty of the season is bringing Dipoto back. We'll get into that. Hanno, quick response to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say from me, at least, on that. But yeah, it's just something we'll go over once the season's over, you know, and kind of rehash of everything that happened. At least that's how I'd like to do it.
Here's another hard one from him. I like all of his. He goes, Julio's always good for 1 month out of the season. Glad we played him. We paid him so much. Steven Lindbergh. I don't think Castillo is injured. I think they are pretending he is so they can see if Hancock can pitch well up and trade his trade value. I think that's a roundabout way to to show off his talent, but I'm always down for a conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? So like you said, Mariners just you got a 2-game series, and we'll be back either after the Padres series or maybe on Thursday night. Here's how you know you subscribe. Make it pretty simple. There's a little notification thing there, especially when you're here on YouTube. And if you're on the podcast side, come on, subscribe to that shit. Also, you know, if you want that street cred, you got to rock the rye bread. Hit up at simply.coro. That's at simply.coro. Also check out In the Clutch Apparel for some other stuff, some cool stuff over there. Use the code Nasty Boys. Save yourself some money. Look, I don't know. I haven't seen the weather up there. I've been worried about, you know, the Santa Ana winds and the San Bernardino fires. And the today driving around, it said 117 in my car in Burbank. Maybe the weather's changing up in Seattle. The roof could be closed, but you know what's always open, Hanno? Tacos and tequila. Go over there for your pre and post. And Hanno and I and the whole gang will be down there no matter what. Game 162. I know that you said it better be a bye week. Well, it isn't, but guess what? The Seahawks are playing on Monday night, so you ain't got no excuse. Come on down to Tacos and Tequila. I think that's September 29th. But before we get out of here, and I want to, I would have to pay homage, you know, right before this recording, one of the greatest actors of all time earlier today passed away. I didn't know if you saw this, Hannah, the great James Earl Jones. Now up there on the silver screen. You know, people know him as Darth Vader, but if you're a baseball fan, you know him as Terrence Mann from Field of Dreams. Also, our age group, we all can recite the movie Sandlot. You know, he was Mr. Myrtle in that one. And then I know maybe some of the younger people might know the movie Fences. Denzel Washington played Troy Maxon, but you can go and check out the original Fences. It's actually on stage, and he plays the Negro League player Troy Maxon in that. But James Earl Jones's performance of that is amazing. You can go check that on. I believe it's on YouTube. It's awesome. You and I were at Ballard High School, at the old Ballard High School, if you remember. They filmed a show there at our high school because they were looking for a real rundown high school. I think it was between us and like Cleveland or Chief South at the time. And they picked Ballard. It was called Under One Roof. I think it got canceled. It was a CBS show, but I do remember them blocking off parts of the hallways. And the only time I ever saw James Earl Jones in person was there walking up there on the I believe the second floor of the hallways, and he had a blanket on, keeping himself warm.
There was no heat Seattle. In that school.
No, that was a cold building. But you know, rest in peace, James Earl Jones. I mean, what an amazing dude and an actor. One of my favorite sketches that I ever did and wrote was the James Earl Jones talk show that I did when I was doing my Stuff with Drug Money sketch. But lived a long, good, prosperous life and leaves behind such a big body of work and definitely an impact on baseball. And that monologue that he has from Field of Dreams will live on forever and ever and ever and ever past us. So just wanted to give a shout out to James Earl Jones. Rest in peace. Anyways, that's our show for tonight. I got to run over to the Burbank Airport. Hanno, we'll be back either Wednesday night or Thursday night. We don't know. Hopefully Wednesday night, talking about a 2-game sweep where what's it called, a Swiffer or a dust up for a 2-game. I don't know what they call the 2-game. I know I'm hoping we get a little Swiffer action here, and then we get a big mop action with the 4-game with Texas. Anyways, I'm gonna shut the hell up. Hanno, you know what time it is. Trying to find my button to hit end there.